They say a sailboat is safest in the harbour. But then again, that's not what sailboats are made for. When we chose to sell everything and set sail, we took a blind leap into the unknown. Every day is a new adventure, from the seemingly mundane tasks of buying groceries and driving home, to the life-changing experiences like setting off across oceans and living with remote tribes in Panama. Indeed, for us, this blue water cruising life is full of surprises, and every time we lift anchor, we pit the risks of disaster against our desire for adventure. And so far, we've got away with it. But sometimes, these things will catch you off guard.
We're sailing in a place called Ahe, an atoll in the far, far north of French Polynesia. And today, we're on our way to our new job.
Yeah, we're not really getting a job as such as it's more like an intern...
An apprenticeship.
An unpaid apprenticeship with no real job prospects at the end of it, I'm sure. Mainly due to our lack of ability.
Oh, absolutely. We're not going to be any help this week, let's put it that way.
I think we may hinder the production of global pearls to a damaging effect. No, so essentially, you actually have been really busy chasing around people, and we've found a local pearl farmer who's been here for, I don't know, forever. And he and his family set up a pearl farm here in Ahe years ago. And he's been kind enough to say that we can tag along and learn a little bit more about the process, about what pearls are and how you make them, and ultimately how you get them into shops and turn them into the nice jewellery that we see celebrities and politicians wearing, I assume.
Yeah, so everywhere we have been in this atoll, we are surrounded by pearl farms. Every time you see these little white dots in the sea, they're really hard to see. They're hard to see for us when we're actually sailing, makes it slightly alarming. Those are pearl floats, which are belonging to pearl farms and marking where, I don't know how the process works, marks where they've got some pets under the water. We're going to learn all of that this week. But yeah, basically we have seen these everywhere, but we don't know very much about the process. I have had a look on their website this morning, and they're selling a necklace for $20,000 US. So
you're not getting it.
We're about to be rich if we find one of those. Now I have a new challenge because I called oysters pets, and so Ian was like wondering what kind of noise an oyster might make. I don't know, a purr or a whimper, a growl.
This is the kind of in-depth conversation that takes place on Indioka when you're not listening. We're trying to work out, because yeah, like, is it lions? I think it is that chuff. They kind of chuff.
Yeah, I think that could be quite accurate.
I think an oyster kind of has that movement that you think you're going kind of sneeze, an oyster sneeze.
Oh, there you go. See, you thought you were going to learn about the process of oyster farming, but no, we're answering the big questions here on Red Seas.
Unanswered questions.
I'm going to find out. So this atoll isn't very big. We're just crossing over to the north side of it, and there is a marked channel that we're following to keep us free from all of these pearl farms that are dotted around. Some of them are actually inside the channel, so we still have to keep an eye out. But it's a vague path that we can follow, and almost right back up to the pass again is where the pearl farm is that we are visiting.
So the one thing that is a little bit concerning, although only a very little bit, is that we can already see this big cloud bank that's covering like half of our horizon. And the forecast is for it to get a little bit grey and rainy, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, we arrived in this atoll just before the winds completely died off, and we've had a few days of it being super still and just like plain blue skies and sunshine. It's been glorious. So we're maybe due a little bit of rain, but hopefully it doesn't last too long.
So we've just left the officially marked channel through the atoll, which is mostly free of pearl floats. And now we're heading straight towards the pearl farm, which is very exciting, but it does mean we actually have to look out for even more of these plastic floats that just litter the surface here.
So we're on our final approach. I hope that we have got the good line, but I think I can see them heading out to say hello and hopefully guide us to where a mooring ball might be that we can tie up to. This is awesome. It's like an escort, I was going to say a police escort. I definitely don't have experience of those. It does make it slightly less alarming when someone who knows where all the pearl floats are is leading the way, though, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, presumably he put them all here, so he knows exactly where it's safe to go. It does seem pretty clear all the way in. The only thing I'm worried about is there is a catamaran up on shore, so I don't know if that's like a pirate ransom situation.
Are we walking into something really dodgy here?
I don't know. There's every chance. So if you don't hear from us...
Yeah, whenever you see a boat up on the reef, it's like massive warning signs that you shouldn't get too close. So that's always a little bit alarming when that's your view ahead.
Happy enough for now?
Yeah. Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
redo it in a minute, but now I understand the system.
Cool. I gotcha. Bonjour.
Bonjour, my name is Renu.
Hey, Nui. Nice to meet you.
Ray Nui.
Man, that's cool. Okay, so that was Ryan Nui, who we've been messaging. And then, yeah, he gave us like an escort all the way into the mooring ball, which is like a Polynesian style of mooring ball. We'll show you that later. And then you just, as he's going away, we just said hi. And then you're like, oh, there's a loose pearl float. Went through under Indioko. And we didn't cut it up with our props, but it's just drifting. And amazingly, we didn't chew it up on our way past.
Yeah, we have to show you where we are moored because, I mean, it is awesome. It's really cool, but it's also slightly terrifying how close we are to reef. And also the knots that I tied to make us secure. I should not use that word. We are not really secure in any way, shape or form. I didn't really know what we were doing as we tied on. And we definitely have to redo that now.
From the description of this mooring, which we were given, and what Brownie has just told me, I think we'll be fine. I hope we'll be fine. Are we going to be fine?
If we do it all again, we'll be fine. And as long as the wind doesn't like swing around, like we're less than a boat length away from the reef right there. So as long as the wind stays coming from the east, we should be okay. I mean, there's zero protection. If the wind picks up, this is going to be lumpy.
Yeah, we're going to have to sit tight, and I hope the moorings hold. So,
I mean, you look at the building that used to be on the reef, it's not a great sign, isn't it? Here, park your house right next to the ruins.
I mean, it should be fine. It should be fine. So the basics are Polynesian moorings aren't quite what you might expect. So moorings tend to be like corkscrewed into the ground or the giant lumps of concrete, that kind of thing. Admittedly, this makes some sense because what they do is they actually tie lines around old coral heads. So both of these sort of floats you can see here are essentially vertical lines going down and tied around a big, huge lump of rock, essentially. Problem is you don't really service Polynesian mooring balls in that fashion, or at least as far as we know. We haven't spoken to the guys yet. Maybe they actually are really on their game and these are better than we understand them to be. Just Polynesian moorings, they work fine, but we just don't know how much to trust it in a big storm. That said, we're not expecting a big storm, just a bunch of grey cloud. So fingers crossed that stays calm and somehow we work this out.
So normally we would run our mooring lines from one bow down around the mooring and back up to the boat so that we've always got control from the bows and we can slip the lines and go in a hurry if we have to. I passed Renui the line and he just tied that end on and then I tightened it up at this end. So I would like to rerun them so they go down through the mooring and back up to the boat. And also, I thought it was going to go through a loop and it didn't. It just sort of like tied it on in a clever way that it can slide along the line and I didn't know how to do that knot. So the side that I did is awful and we definitely have to redo it anyway. But if we center things up, we might sit a little bit straighter and neater and happier. Okay, Ian has retied our lines, so we're slightly more comfortable with that. I am just going to jump in and get eyes on these moorings. I'm sure they're fine because that's where Rainy directed us to, but we would just feel more comfortable if we see what we're actually attached to before we leave the boat.
And while Bri is doing that, I just wanted to show you what I was talking about earlier, and I'll see if you can make this out. But remember I was talking about pearl floats just under the surface? So that is a collection of like 5 pearl floats, those plastic balls, all just under the surface. And there's another one over there somewhere, and then that one on its own randomly sitting on the surface. They are everywhere. And the real risk is that if we come motoring along at any point, or even sailing, frankly, there's every chance that we could pick up one of those mooring balls, or sorry, pearl floats, and their line, and wrap it around our prop. And as you know, we quite like our new nanny engines and we like to look after them. So I don't want to have to dive in and start cutting old pearl lines free, particularly because it also will be an expense to the people who work here and make a living from this. So we're trying to be as respectful as we can be we're kind of surprised that they've put us so close to this coral head and this pearl station, because we are surrounded by pearl floats. But Ryan seemed like really chill about it, really happy to see us, and was super quick to say, yeah, get yourselves here. So I guess this is how they do it. We're learning. We're gonna survive, huh? It's good? Okay. Okay, and our survey says?
Yeah, it was better than I was expecting. The starboard mooring ball that we're attached to is actually like chain going around a bommy, so that's basically like any other mooring we would expect to see. The one on the port side is just line tied around a big bommy, but it's at least an inch line and it looks very secure. I checked all of the knots, and although they've like been there a while because they've all got a bit of coral growing on them, I think they're totally fine. I sort of forgot how close we were to like all of this structure that has fallen down, so I went down to check the second one, and as I came up I nearly like clunked my head on a massive concrete pole with a metal spike sticking out the end. So I sort of glanced up and went, whoa, and swam backwards. But it would be nice to snorkel because there's so many fish around there. Like there's parrotfish, just like butterfly fish swimming around the mooring balls and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the clarity is quite nice. And it was so hot today, it was quite nice to go for a swim.
Sweet. I'm just saying the clarity is quite nice, unlike our saloon windows, which I'm now seeing through the camera and going, oh dear.
Yes, let's not look at these.
I mean, just look at those windows. They're so crazed.
So we're heading into shore to meet the guys at the pearl farm and see a little bit more. But this is just absolutely wild. I can't believe that we are in the middle of the Pacific Ocean coming to like volunteer on a pearl farm. And I think this is quite possibly the most unique place we have ever come with our boat. To be on a mooring right next to that massive bommy. Like we would never get that close to a reef with our boat. It's absolutely crazy.
Pretty sweet,
I can't
isn't it?
stop smiling, it's wild.
Pearl farms like this one have been around for decades. Patrick, the owner, sailed here from California with his family 40 years ago and built this place from the ground up. Back when he was just starting out, Ahe had a thriving pearl farming industry with more than 100 pearling stations like this one spread throughout the atoll. These days, there are no more than 10 farms remaining here.
There's a shark right behind you.
Hello, buddy. Come back around.
That's always a good sign when you pull up somewhere, isn't it?
And thank you so much for having us here. That's really kind of you.
After a warm welcome from Rainui, we sat down with Patrick to learn how sustainable farming practices have improved the industry here since the days of overfishing. Protecting the biodiversity within the atoll has been at the heart of his work from the very beginning.
Morning.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good morning.
The more support of life you put in the lagoon, the more life you have.
That makes sense, yeah. But is it also because there's fewer pearl farms now? There used to be many. You were saying that
Yeah, because there used to be many. So the trend, the biomass of the lagoon, but that increased the biomass tremendously.
That's amazing, isn't it?
So
That's incredible.
It's a very delicate balance that you have to
I hadn't realized that.
take into account when you work in an atoll. You have to
Yeah.
maintain the quality of the water.
It's fascinating, it really is. How did you learn all of this?
Well, by doing it.
Oh, right, this is learning by doing. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing because the amount of knowledge you have is like, it's clear you understand the full process outside of just farming.
Well, I mean, when you are boat people, you know
Yeah,
how to tie a knot, you know how to dive, you know how to fix things, no?
absolutely, yeah. I used to always say the best person to send to Mars is a cruiser, a sailor person, because they're used to living on their own. They're used to fixing things without having the things they need.
After listening to his stories from a life well lived, we gave Patrick a ride to shore and then headed back to Indioko for an early night as we prepared for our introduction to working on the farm the next day.
All right, in tonight's edition of We Didn't See That Happening, we have been enjoying this incredible Polynesian-style mooring right up against this coral head for the last 2 days. And we were just kind of tuning down and just getting used to the rhythms of life here. And this evening we were watching actually the closing ceremony of the Olympics. We're kind of behind, but we were halfway through it. And I just happened to look up at Zora on the screen and I thought, that doesn't look right. And our satellite image just had us drifting really close to the reef in a kind of weird angle we hadn't been at yet. And I went outside and we were like a meter away from the pinnacle of rock that just spikes up from 25 meters up to 0. So we've got one engine's in reverse right now. We've turned on the deck light, and I think we're gonna have to ditch the mooring and work our way back, probably to somewhere safe. I think the village is down that way, so we'll head down in the dark. Don't normally do that inside an atoll, but we'll head down in the dark and try and anchor down there. And hopefully we don't run over a million pearl floats and mooring balls and other boats and things. It's not great fun.
That's me at the knot.
Oh, okay.
Starboard line free.
Oh, okay.
Port line's right here, so just hold position and it's fine.
Try my best. Whoa, you guys can't see this, but that structure is so close to us right now. Like it's just sitting there in the shadows staring at me, and we're lucky if there's 1.5 meters, 5 feet from our bows, and some concrete pillars that are not particularly stable, all mounted on the coral rock. You just see their ghostly shadows standing out there, I think.
Okay, you can start reversing.
Okay, backing up.
All lines on board.
Nice one, well done. That's really cool. So our friend Brian Newey came out to check on us because he noticed that we were underway, and he thought, well, that's not right, they're supposed to be in bed, or at least chilling out. So he just shot out in the little barge boat they have here to see if we're all right. And he agrees. We should head back to the village, which is in the south end of the atoll. And from there, we should be able to find ourselves somewhere safe to anchor for the night. And then, maybe we can make our way back up here. We'll see how the weather looks and what we can get away with.
It's never what you want to be doing, but I do actually feel quite confident doing this because we've spent so long in different atolls and we know what the risks are, and the weather is so light, the sea state is so calm.
Too right.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a total of 1.5 knots of wind.
Oh, treacherous.
Treacherous. So I know we talk a lot about how we love Zora and what it's done for our cruising. The iNav view system has changed it all for us. But I won't get into it in too much detail, but here is a case example of why. I was just looking back through our log as to when we traveled up this channel before, and I can see some little turns that we took along the way, which means there was a reason. We wouldn't just add miles for the sake of it. So when I'm following the line here that Zora's displaying for me, I know I should follow that line. There's a reason in daylight to do it. I can double check it with satellite imagery, and it's all built into the system to just see, oh, there's a little island there, there's a sandbar. There's a lot of things don't have markers out here. Having that little reassurance, that tap on the shoulder to say, you're doing great, but did you notice whatever? Hopefully we don't get any of those taps on the shoulder because we're paying a lot of attention. But if it was starting to get quite shallow, Zora would remind us and we'd be like, whoa, turn the wheel. So it really is one of those things where I'm so grateful we have a platform like this running on the boat.
So I've just finished putting all of the pearl floats ready. We sort of sling them underneath our trampoline so that they're easier to deploy in the moment. We're kind of trying to use our time very wisely. So while we were still on the mooring and one motor was on to back us off the reef, we made sure that everything was prepped and ready before we started untying our lines. And now we're just trying to make sure that everything is ready for when we get to the village anchorage. Hopefully, our spot from the other day is still there, and there are no boats that have arrived and have taken it, because that would make things slightly more complicated. We've got almost a half a moon, so I can just about see things on the deck without needing a torch, which is easier because it means we've got 2 hands to do things. And I think we should be fairly well prepared. It's not going to be the best anchoring at all, but the wind is not going to be strong tonight. It was just changing direction, so we should be fine, and then we'll just sort out the mess in the morning. But I'm definitely feeling happy with our decision to leave that mooring. As beautiful as it was and as cool as it was, we would not have slept tonight if we were less than a meter away from a reef with the potential to swing on it by the morning. So as horrible as it is navigating in the dark through a bommy and pearl float riddled atoll that is not very well charted and no one ever goes to, absolutely not doing things by the book, I still think it was the right decision. Other than when we arrive and actually have to anchor, this is probably the most complicated part of the journey. There is a marked channel and it has lights on it, but it's not straight. It goes down and then there's some massive bommies or little small islands that we have to like kick our way around. So we are following our track and doing our best to see what we can. You can't really see anything on camera, but the lights from shore give a little ripple off the water. So we're basically navigating off that. Well, it wasn't quite as smooth as we were intending, but we are anchored and stopped.
Let's go, Scout.
Let's go, Skill.
We don't have a proper depth sounder of sorts for the dinghy, but an old weight and some paracord with some knots in it every metre is perfect. Where's the top of the pinnacle gone? Is that the pinnacle?
We're drifting. Is it the other side?
It might have gone the other side, but...
Oh, here it is.
Is this it?
This is it.
That's miles deep.
I know.
1, 2,
It really is miles deep. It's going to be like 6 meters or something.
3.
It's lost
That's
it.
the weight.
That's the weight there.
Okay, so it's deeper
is-
than 5.
It's more than 5 meters. I think we'll be all right.
I think we'll be fine. That looked way shallower from the boat.
That's
Hey,
encouraging though.
optics.
Okay, let's do a little circle and look for any others, and then we can sleep well.
That's 3. It totally looks like a metre below the
I
surface.
know, right? Super surreal.
This is ridiculous.
It's just crazy.
Have we ever had to do this before?
No, okay, so we've now gone around the boat like 4 times because every time we think we're done, we're like, let's just do one more loop, because it is very kind of needle in a haystacky. You do a spiral, and if you've missed one by a metre just outside of our eye line or our torchlight, then we just won't see it. So I'm gonna go for a snorkel in the morning, but I don't want to be surprised by anything. So there's like 4 bommies that we've measured. I think they're fine. They're all fine. They're all more than 2 meters.
There's no wind tonight, so we're just going to sit on top of our anchor realistically, which is already kind of happening. Admittedly, we are closer to the entrance to the kind of little port harbour type vibe that's here than I would have liked.
Yeah, we wouldn't stay here all week, but I'm like, let's just stay here for the night, and in the morning we'll reassess and we can move when we can actually see what
Yeah,
we're
we're
doing.
not like in the middle of the main channel, so I think we'll be okay. But we
It's
are
also like nobody ever comes here, so
Exactly.
no
So
one's
it's not-
going to come here in the middle of the night.
certainly nothing big enough that we're going to have to move out of the way. I think a speedboat or a fishing boat can get around us quite easily.
Yeah. Well, no sooner we'd said that, and we swung around, and there's a bommy right there,
Like a full-on pinnacle.
which looks very scarily close. But the more we get our eye in, I think it is deeper than 1.5 meters. I think that's about 4 meters.
I
And
don't think our rudders are going to hit it, but only just.
only just. And we're getting quite close to be testing it.
I mean, the closer we get, the more I can get an accurate number.
Just jump in.
Saw a very hungry-looking shark when we were anchoring.